Alright, hey everyone, so I am down in my basement and I just finished up a new home improvement project, and that is running Ethernet cable throughout my house. And actually I'm went all the way from the basement to the first floor, all the way up to the third floor in the attic space. So I will go through and show you how I did that, how you can do it in your own house. And I have 6 Ethernet cables ran, and I have a single gang box that has all 6 ports there in that ceiling jack. And then this is my main router for my Asus AiMesh system. Actually, I have 6 routers total, with this one being the main, and then there's 5 nodes throughout the property. And then below that I just have a couple of my security camera home bases where they store stuff, and then I have a battery backup just to give this guy some power if the power goes out. Here's a couple of the tools that I use. I'll go through kind of how I did that, how I picked where exactly to put those outlets and run the cables, and give you a little more details about my home networking setup. Alright, so now I have all my colors lined up there in the right order, so I'll take them and then I slide them into here nice and flat. You press them through, and then you want to get this insulation in far enough that it gets crimped. Hey everyone, this is Nate and this is the Nader Tater channel. Alright, thanks for joining me. I'm going to talk about my home network, which is really overly complicated, but I kind of love it. And I just added Ethernet throughout the house. Before, I was working off a combination of wireless backhaul for my mesh network, where it just uses the Wi-Fi to connect router to router, as well as some stuff like Ethernet over power line. And these devices actually you plug into the wall, and then you have Ethernet cable, and they basically convert that Ethernet signal into something that can run over your power lines, which is pretty cool because you can plug this into one room, plug this into another room or on a different floor, and all of a sudden you have Ethernet cable seemingly ran through those places. But they can vary in performance based off how long of a distance it is and how many circuits they would have to skip, in your breaker box. So I wasn't able to get the full speed that I get now with my new internet service providers, which are this 5G cellular stuff. In the past, I had AT&T DSL, and the fastest speed I could get at this property was 25 megabits per second, and so I could keep up with that speed with all of these other features. But now that I have like 300 or plus megabits per second speed, at least the devices I had could not keep up with that, and I was getting a slowdown. So just to be fair, there are some other ways you can not have to run Ethernet, and that would be a Mocha adapter. Now, I'll put links to the products I've used down below. I have other videos as well that you're more than welcome to watch on my channel. Obviously, you can give me a thumbs up down below and subscribe to the channel if you like all this type of content. But the Mocha adapters run over coax cable, and those can get gig speed. So those are a good option if you have good coax cables ran throughout your house, but I don't. So I had to run Ethernet, and what I did there, as you can see here on this diagram for my property, there's actually 4 buildings that I have routers in throughout the property. 2 of them are barns, the other one's like a pond shed, I guess you'd call it. And for those 2 furthest buildings, I'm using a wireless point-to-point bridge to get those connections. I have videos on that on my channel as well. I'll put links down in the video description to those. But for the house itself, I had no Ethernet ran through it. I did have a single Ethernet going from the house to the first barn. It was a CAT6 that I had a direct bury in. But everything else I was using either the wireless backhaul or things like Ethernet over power line. So to get the Ethernet ran, the other big driver for it was my cellular based internet. They have wireless gateways and they need a strong signal. And the best place to get that strong signal for me is up at the highest level, and there's a 3rd floor loft, and I have a external antenna in the attic there right by the 3rd floor loft. So I needed my gateways to be way up there on the 3rd floor, but I couldn't get that speed back down, especially down to the basement, easily. None of these devices would, handle 300 plus megabits per second. In fact, some of them I couldn't even get a connection because it was too far of a run. So that really drove me to say, hey, I need Ethernet cable to get. I need my gateways to be up high on the third floor, and then I need internet all the way down here in the basement, which is where I have my home office for work. So that was the main driver. And then once you kind of start that project, it kind of spiraled out of control, where I said I could run more Ethernet in other places. And so for this, what I did was I bought a roll of Ethernet cable, CAT6 that is 1,000 feet long. I think it was like $80, so it's way cheaper than trying to buy individual cables and figure out how long you need it, because you can just get this at the length you need, and you can cut it to size after you run the wire. So I'll go through how I did that. The other big challenge is figuring out how to get it to the jacks that you want it. Now, I'm lucky in that in this basement I have a drop ceiling, so I can easily run cables in this drop ceiling at least to the first floor without a problem. And that's what I do to get Ethernet back to my old office, which is on the first floor, to get connections to the barn Ethernet cable, as well as to a AiMesh router that's in that old office up there as well. But to get up to the third floor, that poses some challenges. Luckily for me, I had already dealt with this issue by running a thermostat wire from the basement up to the third floor for a new thermostat. And to do that, I went up a return duct that went from the basement all the way up to the second floor, and I could just drill through a single, or I guess it's a double 2x4 header on a wall, and I could get into the attic space. So I had done that a couple years ago, and now I'm just following that same return duct. And that's something that you'll need to consider, is how can you get a clean shaft all the way from where you're going to where you need to go. And if it's just going from a existing floor to one floor above it, you can typically handle that if you can get access to the top plate of that wall. But otherwise, you'll need to find something like a return duct or some kind of unused pipe or shaft that you can fish a line through. All right, so on the diagram here for the house, the brown that's up in that little third floor loft space, which is kind of like an attic space, that is my gateways. I have two of them. I have both a Verizon and a T-Mobile gateway that I use as a dual WAN setup, meaning they're like it's a fail-safe, so one goes out, it'll back up to the other one. And those have each have their own CAT6 cable that goes straight down here to the basement and plugs into my main router. And then I have two other Ethernet cables that go over, one to my old office, and the other one connects to the direct bury cable that goes over to the first barn and a node there. And then off that barn node, the yellow line there is another Ethernet cable that goes to a wireless point-to-point bridge. So that's basically you can think of it as a wireless Ethernet cable. So there's a unit on one building and another receiving unit on the other building, and it beams directly over to that one, where again I have another AiMesh node that repeats the Wi-Fi signal. Going back the other way towards the pond house, it's a very similar setup. I have a cable that runs all the way from the basement up to the attic, and then through the wall and into a node there. And then from that one, I have again a connection to a point-to-point bridge that sends it down. And each of these runs, these wireless runs, are a couple hundred feet, 200 to 220 feet of distance that the wireless point-to-point happens. And then I have a final router down at the pond to get Wi-Fi signal down there for enjoying music or playing stuff down there at the pond. So that's the setup that I have. All right, so one last thing before we get started, I just wanted to show you some of the tools that I'm using. And these are not sponsored tools. These are tools that I bought with my own money, and I do really like them. So I'll put links in there where you can go look at them yourself and decide if you want to buy them. But this tool is something you need if you buy the big spool of Ethernet cable, because it's just a raw cable and you'll have to put your own crimped ends on it. And so this tool kind of does everything you need in that it can strip the insulation off, it can cut it to length, it can crimp the connectors here, as well as it gives you a diagram that shows you what order these Ethernet cables have to go into. The downside to them is that they do have 8 of these little cables, and you have to get them all to line up. So it is harder just from a finicky standpoint to wire than a standard like 110 outlet or something like that. So, but this tool is really nice because the other feature it has is a pass-through capability, where these connectors allow you to make the wires way too long, which is easier for you to get them sorted out and then push them through. And then when you crimp it, it actually does another action where it's cutting the excess off, which is really nice. And then the other tool that I bought to do this is a little tester tool. And so this one basically has a resistor, or has multiple resistors in there. And then when you hook the other end up to it, you press the button and it sends a little electrical signal up the wire, and it tests to make sure that you have it all wired up correctly, as well as that there's no shorts or open circuits in there. So this is definitely worth your time and your money to use, because it would be terrible to run all that Ethernet cable through the house and wall and close everything back up and then find out later that the cable doesn't work. So this will verify that the cable should work before you finish up your job there. So all of these tools actually worked great for me. Their other tool that I use is a fishing stick, so I'll include a link to that. You'll see that here in a minute when I'm up there in the attic running the wire. So let's get right to it and get to work. Okay, so now I'm up in my loft, and right over here I have a couple outlets. So I have a power outlet I can use, and then there's a phone and a coax outlet. I don't want to add more plates to this, so what I got was a little kit here that allows me to combine the coax and the 2 Ethernet ports that I need. Now obviously I could have done that with the phone jack as well. There's lots of options there, and you're really when they install this originally, they, in my opinion, should just use one box as well. So it's all low voltage, which means this kit here, you don't even have a box. These actually have a box on them, I believe, in the back side, but I can just take the coax off of that wall plate and put it on this one and add my 2 Ethernet ports here. So let me zip this off. So you can see they have a box in there, and they just poked a hole through the bottom of that one. So I'm going to just add some more holes in here, and then I can run my Ethernet through, and then this will just screw right on in place of where this one was. Alright, so now I'm in my attic, and I have my fishing stick. So it's not fishing like in the water, but instead it's a little thin fiberglass rod that you can screw together. This is in about 4-foot sections, and I guess it's 3-foot sections actually, probably. And you can put them down in the wall or the ceiling for that matter, and you assemble it as you go, so you can get a long rod that then you can pull a wire up, in my case, from the basement all the way up to the attic. You could potentially push it as well, so I could have the Ethernet onto here and push it down, but really it's better to pull in tension. And so let's I guess for most of you guys, you might not know where to go in your attic to find a good shaft to get down to. If you know how kind of the walls are built, they have headers on them, and so you can't typically just drill through the top of a 2x4 wall from the attic and get down more than just the floor below you, because there will be a header and a floor or joist underneath that next floor. In this case here, I already ran a thermostat wiring up from the basement, so I already know where to go, and I'm actually using a return shaft of the HVAC. So I'm actually running the wire inside of the HVAC return duct, which isn't ideal, but it's certainly a doable, and it's really my only clean choice here without starting to take apart the walls. So the only thing I'll do is make sure to seal it on both ends when I have the wire leave the return duct. But so let me just fish this down to the basement. So I'll attach the Ethernet to the bottom of this stick, and then I'll pull it back up through here. Alright, so right here is my thermostat wire that I pulled up, and this side over here is the one that I know that goes to the basement. Just gotta move this insulation out of the way. Alright, so now there's my hole that I go into the return duct. Alright, so there's a couple ends you can put on here. I'm just going to put this little flexible end that will just give me a little bit of flexibility. If it hits something, it will bend out of the way and help guide it. And then I'll just feed these down one at a time until I get to the bottom. Okay, I think I am down there. Since I don't have a spotter, it's hard for me to tell. So I'm just going to throw on another stick here just to make sure I have plenty of clearance. So I'm gonna go down in the basement and we'll check it out. Alright, so here we are in the basement. You can see this is the thermostat wire, and it's coming out of this return duct. Basically, this return duct has a seam right here, and this splits off. We can fold this down, and then we can get access into that. So now that's what I'm going to do. Now I have the end of my fishing stick here. So now I can take this, and I'm going to go ahead and tape my CAT cable onto it directly. It's all set now. Alright, now I'll just pull this guy up. Okay, here we go. Okay, so if I only had to do that one, then obviously I would be done, but I need to get 3 or 4, actually 4 up here from the basement. So I'm going to use this one here now as a guide for the next ones. So to do that, I'm just going to tie it off so it doesn't go anywhere. Now you can also use a string. The challenge here is I don't know exactly how long I need this to be. Alright, so now I have this Ethernet cable pulled out, and I have it long enough for what I need. And in hindsight, I could have done this the first time around, so that was maybe an error on my part. But I can use this little ring. It threads onto the end of the stick, and I can slide it over this key ring here, and now this is going to follow this cable all the way down, so it's going to make that turn for me that I had trouble getting it. So again, I could have done that earlier with the thermostat wire, but I didn't. So now I'm going to do it with this one to get my extra runs back up. Okay, so now I ran that fishing line down with the little eye ring on it, and can't see it, but I'm sure it's right over this lip here. So I'll just reach my hand up on this cable, and then I can feel it. I can pull it down. So that's how much easier it is to to get it than the last time with those pinchers. So this time I'm actually going to pull the line from the top down here, because I want to leave this box of Ethernet wire up in the attic, because I'm planning for a new expansion. I don't know how long I need that cable to be, so I'm going to unhook it from here, and I'm actually going to pull it down from here and then close it all up. Alright, so you can see I have it covered back up. I taped up that hole, and then I have the box waiting here for a fourth run. But I have one run going that way into the abyss, and then I have two of them coming up here over the joist there, and then falling down here, and then right over here I have my box right through here. So I'm going to poke these through, and then we'll go to the other side and put connectors on them. Alright, now you can get fancy stickers with numbers on them to label these. I just used a piece of tape. Alright, so this tool here can strip. And I already stripped it once, but I really need to strip it a little bit further. Alright, so this strips it off without cutting the wires, and then you have this, typically you have yarn or one of these little reinforcement pieces. So you want to cut that off. Alright, so now you untwist your pairs. Don't worry about the order just yet. Just kind of get them untwisted, and I like to get the ends straight best you can. That makes it easier to go in here. So now this is really where the sweetness of this tool comes in. So you put in your connector here, and then it has your color codes. And so the typical ones are this B, this T568B. The A also works, and if you have it wired the same way on both sides, it's fine, but most people use the B. Most patch cables out there are a B. So I'll just lay that down here as a reference, and then I lay it out. Alright, so now I have all my colors lined up there in the right order, so I'll take them and then I slide them into here nice and flat. You press them through, and then you want to get this insulation in far enough that it gets crimped until it stops. So now, before you crimp it, you want to make sure your colors are right here. So I'm comparing to that brown, striped brown, green, striped blue, solid blue, green, dark orange, and then striped orange. So that's correct. So once the insulation is in good, when I squeeze this trigger, it's going to crimp it as well as cut these off. And there we go. So it crimps that all properly, and I have a good connector here. So this one can go into here like that. Alright, so now both of these guys are done, so I can put the tester on one. This is the little remote. It's not powered, so I will put it on 0, which is the one without tape. And then when I go down and put the connectors on the other side, I can put this on there and test it. Okay, so here is the corresponding end to that same cable. I just crimped that on, and now I can press this button and it shows me I am good. I pass. If it was miswired, or if I had the wrong wire, for example, well, I don't have another connector down here, but if I had a wrong wire, it would be an open. You know, if it was shorted somewhere, it would show up here, or if I had the wires you know, crossed over somewhere, that would be a miswire. Alright, so this is a exterior wall. It's insulated, and you know, I have a hard time getting to the you know, sill plate there in the basement to even try to fish up the wiring in here. It is possible to do that, but what I opted to go for is a surface mount unit here. I was able to try to be as discreet as possible and drill through this you know, quarter round trim here, and then I'm able to put this down and hide it and make it as flush as possible. So this is my choice, but like I said, you could try to get it to go and actually fish the wire up in through there. And then as you can see, this obviously is not a standard, Ethernet in connector. It's this other style that you use a little punch to press the wires on there. But it gives you a wiring diagram. It's the same concept really. And then this snaps on here. And now, that's my, it's behind the desk here, so obviously it's not really seen. And I think that's better than me trying to mess with the insulation back here in the wall. So that's what I'm going to do for this one. Okay, well that's all there is to it really. It's a little bit daunting at first. The biggest challenge I had by far was having a route to go to from the basement up to the attic so I could then get to where I wanted to go. Getting down or up one floor is quite easy because you can find where the wall is and drill through the header or the footer or the sill plate, and you can fairly quickly get access into that wall cavity, and you can fish wires up if you have the right tools like the fishing stick or the fishing tape to run through there. So most houses, a HVAC return duct is a reasonable option, and you just want to make sure that you do seal up each end, because again, that is trying to pull a negative pressure and pull air from one part of the house to the other. So if you have a big gap where wiring goes, it will mess up your efficiency of your HVAC. So that's something to consider. Other people might know of some other shaft that they have or they have access to, and those are certainly there are other options to get the wiring throughout different floors. For me, I did not have to destroy any drywall. I did not have to paint or mud anything after I was done. The only holes I cut in the drywall were the rectangle holes to put in the faceplate for the outlets or the ports there for the Ethernet. So it went fairly smoothly, and I'm very happy I did that because now I get full speed throughout definitely the house and the first barn. My next bottleneck now is actually my point-to-point wireless connections, my wireless bridges. They are capable of the faster speed from a wireless standpoint, but their jacks on the actual units are only rated for 100 megabits per second. So that's my slowdown. So feel pity for me because I cap out at 100 megabits per second at my far barn and down in the pond. Truthfully, I have no real need to improve that right now, but one day I will come up with a reason to have to change that and get those up faster as well. So I'm quite happy. I'm enjoying having robust, reliable internet throughout the property and down here in the basement where I work a lot of the time. So I hope you enjoyed the video and it helped teach you something about how to do it at your place. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments below. I try to read them, I try to answer them, and hopefully it can help you guys out. So thanks.